Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1983 film Microwave Massacre. Now this one, I know a lot of people probably heard people talk about it, just throwing it out there. It's just like it's weird that something like this exists, that this is a title that actually was made into a movie. And that's how I had heard about this film for many, many years. And I finally had gotten around to watching it. This isn't the first time. I think I watched it for the first time some point last year, and then I liked it so much, as a so bad it's good film, obviously, that I purchased it. This is a 4K released by Arrow Video. This film has no right looking as good as it does in 4K, but it does look that good. It looks great. I just recently got a 4K television, so this is actually the very first 4K movie I've watched on my TV. It says a lot about me, but it's appropriate. So anyway, let's get into talking about Microwave Massacre. But first, I believe subscriber Nerdy Goth is the person who requested this, said that she wants to know what shirt I'm wearing when I'm doing a video, because sometimes you can see like a portion of it and just tries to figure out like what is that shirt. So I'm going to try to remember to do this. So I have the Stuff shirt on this time. Love the Stuff, big fan of the film. It's a purple shirt with, obviously the Stuff logo, and that's all there is to it. There's nothing on the back or anything, but love this shirt, big fan. My wife got it for me for Christmas, so I don't think it was this last Christmas. I think it was the one before that, but anyway, Microwave Massacre. Directed by Wayne Berwick, who also did Attack of the B-Movie Monsters and The Naked Monster. Should probably see that one. Written by Thomas Singer, who also wrote script for Malibu High, which is a Vinegar Syndrome release, by the way. Haven't seen it. I watched the trailer. I didn't really have interest in it, but he wrote that script. And story by Craig Muckler, who also worked on scripts for Mark and Clark World Adventures, and one I've heard about, Demonoids. Let me know your thoughts on Demonoids if you've seen it. This film was actually filmed in 1979, but didn't end up actually getting a release until 1983. So really the film was done in 1979, so it is a 1979 film, but the actual release of it happened in 1983. So Rodney Dangerfield was originally sought after for the role of Donald in this, which is obviously the main character. But he cost too much, as people would assume. So it was Jackie Vernon who ended up being the guy playing Donald in this film. And I will say this, Jackie Vernon, terrible acting, just terrible acting. Apparently he was a comedian at the time. That name sounded familiar to me when I read it. I'm like, Jackie Vernon. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, it makes sense. He was a comedian at the time. I'm sure he was a much better comedian than he was an actor. That's not hard, but anyway, the opening music, while looking at the absurdly large microwave that they use in this, sounds very spacey. I got like this space type vibe, which made me feel like, is this like they're trying to give you like a futuristic vibe? And then that was actually kind of confirmed when I actually watched this one special feature really that they have on this, which is an interview with some of the people involved with the film. And they did say that they kind of used the microwave because it was like this newfangled technology that they felt like was kind of weird and a little too science-y. So I think they were trying to work in this kind of like be afraid of microwaves aspect, which doesn't really come through, but I guess it makes sense from how the music is, and it's very like creepy, weird, spacey, futuristic, mixed together with how just large and weird and imposing it looks. Never seen a microwave that large. I don't even think if that's a thing. I don't think it's a thing. I don't think there's ever been a microwave that large. Well, I mean, probably somewhere, but Then we go to having boobs and butt shown in this very, very aggressively. Gives you the immediate feel of what you're in for with this film. And yes, they did try to go kind of hard on the TNA, primarily the T, because, hey, that's the time period we were in with films. It does end up coming off as an extremely chauvinistic, misogynistic film, but once again, that's kind of very much acceptable for the time that this film came out. It reflects where society was. Obviously we've come a long way, thankfully, and yeah, but I know there are tendencies for some people at sometimes to kind of look back at films like this and being like, yeah, people really shouldn't be watching this, shouldn't be releasing this anymore because society has changed. I'm of a different mindset wherein I don't identify with the chauvinistic and misogynistic aspects of the film, but it's entertainment and it reflects society at that time, so it really is a time capsule. It's a great reminder of where we were as a society and where we are currently, which is in a much better state. So for that reason, I don't really agree with people who are saying, well, no one should watch this anymore. I'm gonna watch it, and I did, and I own it. So overly horny construction guys. It's like they've never seen boobs before. This film is obviously very over the top, very ridiculous, and you get that very immediately, not only with the way that they're showing the boobs and the butt, but with the way, her boobs are in it being shown to the construction guys, and it's like they've never seen boobs in their life before. Like, it's very over the top, it's very ridiculous, and they're just, like, tripping over themselves to go get a closer look at some boobs. It's funny. Donald's main issue is set up early as he opines just, quote, wanting a good old bologna and cheese. And he talks about that regular bologna and cheese many times throughout the film because he's sick of trying these, as his wife calls them, cultural experiments experiences as far as her new food goes. And that's something that they pair with the microwave. It's like as soon as the microwave shows up, then his wife changes and she's like, we're not having regular food. We're not having normal food anymore. I'm going high class because we have this microwave now. So it's this very interesting thing where like he's just trying to be, a simple blue collar dude. He wants his bologna and cheese and he's very happy with that. He doesn't want a whole lot out of life, but she has these higher aspirations. It's almost like she wants to bump up to a higher social class just because she has this microwave and thinks, well, because I have this cool, pricey looking technology, then now I need to eat like I have more money, be more high class with the food that I'm eating, be more culturally experienced, if you will. Even before Donald and May speak to one another, they hate each other. They make comments about it. Especially it's mainly just the way that Donald is acting. He's so down about the food. He makes some other comments about his wife. Like, he's just a grumpy dude. He's set up as being extremely grumpy. You just know that his relationship with his wife is not going to be good. Early on in the film, it's a mix of humor that's actually a bit funny and some that's funny because it's not funny. I don't know if that makes sense to everyone, if everyone experiences comedy that way, but like, there are times where I laugh at something because it's funny to me because it's not funny. Like, it was a joke that was intended to be funny, it doesn't land well, and then that makes me laugh because it was so poorly done. And there's a bunch of that in this film because the comedy's not good, honestly, for the most part. There are a few of those moments, like I said, where it legitimately is kind of funny, but I don't know, it's just fun to watch this movie fail on so many fronts. I love So Bad It's Good films, and this is a great example of So Bad It's Good. I think this was either when I was doing the superlatives decades with Uncle Pete. I think this was either my number one or runner up pick for So Bad It's Good. So yeah. The interactions between Donald and May are particularly funny, in my opinion, because Donald's acting is really terrible and May's acting is really over the top. So it's interesting where they're terrible in different ways. Like, Donald's acting is just bad. It's just horrible. It is some of the worst acting I've seen on screen. And May's acting isn't necessarily bad. She's just so over the top. It's like, think theater actors, but to the nth degree, and not even like great theater actors. So I love their interactions just for that reason. Roosevelt, or as he's called during the film, Rosie, comes off very creepy with the way he talks, saying things like honey child. Yeah, so he's the creepiest character in this film, in my opinion. I know he's just supposed to be like this hornball, typical dude. He doesn't ever like cross the line into being like a dangerous guy or anything like that, but like, he's creepy. I think we can all agree he's a creepy dude, especially when he makes comments like, honey child. It's like, And no one should say that term. Very weird. May has aspirations of being high class with her food. You see this when she calls bologna and cheese, quote, peasant sandwich. And thus, showing more of that conflict between May and Donald, and I'll kind of comment more about that at the very end of what I think is really going on within this film, which I know is not like an intended thing. It's like an unintentional kind of like thematic subtextual thing, very much unintentional, because like I said, I watched the the making of little feature on here, and yeah, they were just making a dumb movie. So notice how the couch at Donald and May's house has a huge nasty stain on the back. That's like the first thing I noticed. And apparently they shot at someone who was involved, I think like the producer's house or something, as he was about to be moving to another house. So like he was about to be, clearing everything out. So they shot there, and the one thing that just hits me every time they're showing that main living room, there's a horribly disgusting looking giant stain on the back of that couch. Your eyes go right to it. Just another aspect of comedy to the film. May's death scene, comically bad. Another aspect of so bad it's good. It's the blood is barely there. Like her twitching feet are very over the top. It's just over the top. This whole film is just over the top. You're gonna hear me saying that stuff plenty as I keep going on. It is a pretty ridiculous leap that Donald takes from killing his wife when drunk to cooking and eating her when he's sober, because he doesn't even remember killing her the next day. He finds her dead body, and then he decides, oh, well, now I'm going to eat it. Obviously that idea gets into his mind because he was watching that thing on television where someone was talking about how you get away with how you get away with a crime. And he was saying, you have to eat the evidence. And so he's like, oh, okay, well, I have to eat May. But it's a huge leap. Like, the only reason he killed her in the first place is because he was drunk. Or at least that's what you're led to believe, because he's, not thinking straight. He doesn't even remember that he killed her the next day. So it's this really wild leap for him to go from killing her when he's impaired to cooking and eating her when he's not impaired. So that's a very weird thing. You have a feeling that May's aluminum foil wrapped hand will be Donald's undoing since it accidentally falls in the garbage can. But that doesn't come to fruition. The only thing they do with it is try and throw out this comedic moment where a guy who is homeless is going through Donald's trash and finds the hand and uses it to scratch his balls and his back, which, kind of funny, but I thought that would end up being his undoing. But in the end, what ends up being his undoing? He just has a heart attack and dies on the spot. And you don't even really see it happen. It's just oh, he's just dead. Talk about just fizzling out at the end of a film. That is a horrible ending. It is such a terrible ending to the film. Philip and Roosevelt liking the taste of May means that Donald can get rid of the body faster. Not just the body, but the evidence that he's been killing. So he finds this new route and he's like, oh man, I thought I was going to have to eat all this, which obviously that wouldn't have been a problem for him because he's enjoying the flavor of the meat, even though, as Roosevelt and Philip say, it tastes old, which is kind of a funny joke, in my opinion. Does Donald kill DDD, which is a ridiculous name, because of her noises during sex, because he just hates women, or because he wants more meat? I don't really understand. You don't get what the motivation is, why he kills DDD after he has sex with her, or kind of while he's having sex with her. It could be any three of those things. It could be all of those things. You just don't get it. But you probably don't expect it. I don't expect it from a film of this pedigree. Real quick, pause for horror hydration. Thanks for bearing with me. All right, the home stretch. Then, the guy going through Donald's trash finds May's arm and uses it as a back and ball scratcher. Kind of already talked about that, but I like the way I phrased it there more, the back and ball scratcher. That was fun. Then the character of Chickie, the woman who was in the chicken costume, very random, very odd, just speaks to the weird, so bad it's goodness of the film. I do love how Chickie is doing her street performance, saying that she is a performer. It's just so absurd, and that's the thing with this film. It just leans so heavily into absurdity that it's so absurd that she's just I'm a performer. She sees herself as at least a quasi-professional, as she's wearing this very ridiculous-looking chicken outfit, and just kind of like dancing oddly and then just like holding out a basket being like, you have some eggs, maybe some coins for me? That sounded like an old woman, but you know what I mean. Donald does the worst job keeping May's sister from finding out what's going on. It's like he didn't even really try. And I think maybe part of that is because he wanted an excuse to kill her. He didn't really care that much. Like, he hides it to a degree, but he doesn't try super hard to hide the fact that May's dead from May's sister. So I think, at least subconsciously, he was like, I just want her to know what's going on so that I have a reason to kill her, because obviously he hated her. But then he starts thinking about it, and he's like, oh no, I can't kill her because I don't want to eat her because that's disgusting. Which brings up another question, which is my next point. I do like that he doesn't kill her because he's so grossed out about the idea of eating her, but wouldn't you think that that would have been the same case with May? Or is it a situation where he's thinking he doesn't want to eat her because the meat that he had from May wasn't as good because she was older? Whereas for the majority of the film, when he's killing and eating other people, they're young women. So, the meat tastes better. And I'm assuming it's just applying the exact same thing with like older animals versus younger animals, which now that I just said that, I'm not sure that's a thing or not. Potentially. If you know something about that, go ahead and comment. When Donald is carving up his second to last victim, I love the ridiculous amount of blood squirting onto him. I love scenes like that. They're so over the top. They're so obviously ridiculous, but they're funny to me. I love it. I was actually involved, side note, I was actually involved with a short film at one point where someone was, chopping up a body, and we had to do the fake blood, and I was involved in making up and actually doing the fake blood. So what I ended up doing is, it was literally maple syrup that I just put red food coloring into, and literally as this person's like sawing, I was just squeezing the maple syrup bottle, and it was just flying, and it was so over the top and ridiculous, and I had a great time with it. I thought it was hilarious. So when I see those things, it kind of takes me back to that moment, and it's fun. Anyway, back to the film. Donald just having a heart attack, extremely lame. Like I was talking about, talk about a film just fizzling out at the end. I wanted a much larger, much more grand finish to this ridiculous, over-the-top story. Just saying. That's probably the thing I hate the most about this film, is that ending. I just think it's bad. But what's with May's glowing eyes? The head. Like, okay, her head's still there, I get that. But then they show it, and like the eyes start glowing. I don't understand. Is there now like a supernatural element going on here? Now, if that got you intrigued, let me let you know that one of the guys in the special feature on this, the guy who played actually Roosevelt, aka Rosie in the film, said that he is working on a sequel script. We'll see. I mean, it could happen because Mutilator 2 is happening, and this could kind of start the whole ball rolling with a bunch of old crappy movies getting sequels. I'm for it. I don't have high hopes for it, but, if it even happens. Because Hobgoblins 3 was supposed to happen a while ago, and it has not. This movie really is steeped in hatred of women and objectification. Like I said, very chauvinistic, very misogynist, but very much of its time and showing you what was very much acceptable back then. This is a guy's movie for the most part. Not saying that women can't enjoy it for its ridiculousness from time to time, but, I'm just saying when it was made, it was very much pointed at men, and you can tell that. Really, if you do consider it, this is me getting smarter than this film is, so hear me out on this. Really, if you consider it, this film is blue collar versus white collar, but food is used to show that. Fancy versus simple, basically. Donald even says to the bartender that May calls her food a cultural experience. I talked about this a little bit already, but it's that thing where Donald is a construction worker. He just wants bologna and cheese. He wants to keep things simple. He's a simple blue-collar American dude. His wife wants to be so much more. She wants to move out of that blue-collar area. She wants white-collar. She wants fancy. She wants cultural experiences when it comes to food, and that's the way she's doing it. She's trying to make herself seem of a different class than she actually is, and that's where a lot of this, tension ends up coming from. But I think unintentionally, because like I said, based off the way these guys talked about the film, there was no like intentional subtext or anything. I think unintentionally it plays very interestingly as this blue collar versus white collar, and someone who is happy with their lot in life versus someone who is not and they want so much more, and the tension that can create. So now that I've gotten way too deep about Microwave Massacre, I would like to know your thoughts about this film. Go ahead and put it down in the comments. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle on this? Go ahead and let me know. Give me like a sentence or two. I always don't enjoy it when people are just like, I like it, I don't like it. That doesn't mean a lot to me. You're not going to get a response from me. If you want a response, you got to give me a little bit more. You don't have to write up a novel. That's fine. Just like a sentence or two. Totally good. Do me a quick favor. Hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that. That's great support. 100% appreciate it. Also, hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 a week, which I think is a good amount. But regardless, I really do thank you for taking your time to watch this review video. And until next time, keep it brutal.